Good morning, everyone. I'm Annie. It is my birthday next week, and I just want to talk about pretty books. So, I hate the way that there seems to be this whole thing where the only way that you can get a pretty book is by buying like a special edition cover. And generally, they cost like 4, 5+ times the price. And there's no actual extra content inside the book usually. It's just you get like a nice cover or like sprayed edges or foiling and bits and pieces. And I just want regular books on my shelf, but that doesn't mean that I don't want them to be pretty. So I have pulled out what I think are some of the prettiest books on my shelf, and I've literally got the stack right there, and I've literally just realised as I finished stacking them up that there is literally only one book that is not Greek mythology inspired, and I'm like, oops. But I am very much on a Greek mythology binge. I am very much like back in my Greek mythology era, and I am so 100% here for it, and I'm loving every second of it. So sorry, not sorry, most of these are Greek mythology, and if you're not into Greek mythology, you should really get on this train, and I have some really great books in here that will get you in that space. So the first book on this list is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. Now I really love the cover of this. It's this like gorgeous deep purple with these flowers around the edge, and then we've got this gorgeous foiled geometric bottle that's got this like lovely stopper at the top. Like literally, if this was like a real bottle, I would have it on my shelf. Absolutely. I think it's gorgeous. I really love this kind of like more simple design that a lot of books are doing at the moment on the front. Where you've got sort of like the names in big text, and then you've just got this like kind of simple background. I'm kind of loving it a little bit more than character ones at the moment because they're giving sort of like very throwback, like early YA vibes. But this is really gorgeous. My only thing is these bits of text. Like I get they're important, but if we could just skip those out of there, shove them on the back, shove them in the inside cover, please, but just get them off the front cover, then it would be literally perfect. It's like 290 odd pages. I haven't actually read it yet. It is high up on my TBR to be read. I will get there at some point, and then of course I will let you guys know what I think. But the blurb. A forgotten history, a secret network of women, a legacy of poison and revenge. Welcome to the Lost Apothecary. Hidden in the depths of 18th century London, a secret apothecary shop caters to an unusual kind of clientele. Women across the city whisper of a mysterious figure named Nella who sells well-disguised poisons to use against oppressive men in their lives. But the apothecary's fate is jeopardized when her newest patron, a precocious 12-year-old, makes a fatal mistake, sparking a string of consequences that echo through the centuries. Meanwhile, in present-day London, aspiring historian Caroline Parswell spends her 10th wedding anniversary alone, running from her own demons. When she stumbles upon a clue to the unsolved apothecary murders that haunted London 200 years ago, her life collides with the apothecary's in a stunning twist of fate, and not everyone will survive. With crackling suspense, unforgettable characters, and searing insight, The Lost Apothecary is a subversive and intoxicating debut novel of secrets, vengeance, and the remarkable ways that women can save each other despite the barrier of time. Honestly, this makes me like so excited to read it, and generally I don't really like books that time jump back and forth. I've read a couple that just like don't really do it very well. However, the way that the blurb is written makes me like so excited to read it, and I just have a really good feeling that it's going to be a good one. So the next book is Circe by Madeline Miller, and honestly the cover of this foiling just gives me so much life. It's so beautiful. We get all these like little motifs around the edge aside from this like main set of foiling. So we've got like two women down below, and then we've got all kinds of like creatures and animals, which very much fits in with the vibe of the book for when Circe is an adult and she's like living on her own and stuff. But basically the whole point of this book is we follow her pretty much through her entire life and everything that she experiences, and how previous experiences then mold how she interacts the next time with people. And I feel like this is so well done, but it is not an easy read, and that is just the way that it's written is quite detailed, and it's sort of like very like old style Homer, which I will get on into a minute. It's like very prosy and whatnot, but I feel like it is worth going through. I know there's like loads of people that have like read it in like 24 hours or whatever. They're like, I read this like in one sitting, and I'm like, this literally took me like 3 months because I had to like pick it up, put it down, and if I like wasn't in like a concentraty headspace, it was like not gonna happen. But again, my only thing is these bits of text that are like irrelevant, where it says like blisteringly modern by the Times and stuff, can we just like get rid of these off the front page? Like, I don't care. And I don't know if it's just because I'm the kind of person, like, I generally don't look at reviews before I buy a book. Like, I will make my own judgment based on the blurb, and yeah, all right, my judgment isn't always great, but I don't want this on the front cover. Can we please get rid of them? I'm begging you. I don't want to see it. Put it on the back. Put it in the inside cover. Just not on the front because it's ruining it. But this book as a whole, very much worth a read. Like I said, I kind of sort of, I wouldn't say struggle bust through it because I did really enjoy it, but it was like, it's a little bit like Song of Achilles that is sat on my shelf. I've been actively reading that for like forever, it feels like, for literally months. But it's kind of one of those of like, I'll pick it up, I'll read a couple of chapters, I'll put it down for like a month because I feel like I have to be in like exactly the right headspace to read this kind of prosy text. So if you don't like prose, then sorry, you're not gonna like this. But this cover though. In the house of Helios, god of the sun and mightiest of the Titans, a daughter is born. Circe is strange, not powerful and terrible like her father, nor gorgeous and mercenary like her mother, but she has a dark power of her own, witchcraft. When Circe's gift threatens the gods, she's banished to the island of Aea, where she hones her occult craft, casting spells, gathering strange herbs, and taming wild beasts. Yet a woman who stands alone cannot live in peace for long, and among her island's guests is an unexpected visitor, the mortal Odysseus, for whom Circe will risk everything. Circe's tale is a vivid epic of family rivalry, love and loss, the inextinguishable song of women burning hot and bright in the darkness of a man's world. So, following on from Circe, I feel like this is a really good set to go next because it very much gives the same vibes. It's very much like a retelling. It's a little bit prosy, but I do feel like this was a little bit easier for me to read because I did read it a lot quicker. I read these with my friends in our book club and we had so much to say about, well, literally I don't even have these in the right order. So we had so much to say about Ariadne and Electra. We haven't read Atalanta, but I have it because it came out and I really wanted it and I was like dying. But let's go through the covers individually. So Ariadne, this beautiful blue. We get all this like foiling on the leaves and the grapes on this vine because her whole story is she marries Dionysus, and that's like kind of the main part of sort of like who she is, and that takes up a lot of the book, her relationship with Dionysus, how she lives on this island after she's betrayed and this, that and the other. So I feel like this very much fits the vibe. We've got like a little boat here, we've got like sort of her down here as kind of like a little bit of like a shadow figure, it kind of looks like. It's not, but this again was really beautiful. A little bit like Circe, how we sort of see how she kind of like deals with everything in her life and how past experiences then feed into how she reacts the next time when people come and speak to her. I feel like this is quite the same because we get a lot of elements where the way that Ariadne and her sister Phaedra have had previous experiences, it then sort of like gives them like a precursor as to how they're going to react. It's like a little bit of like a prerequisite. And I really love it because even though like it's very tragic, it's very much Greek tragedy, but the ending isn't like the happy ever after you're looking for. It's a little bit bittersweet, but I feel like it was just so beautifully done, and the way that the whole thing sort of like came together at the end really was like, there was like a whole like poetic justice element about it. So 100%, I really love this. As princesses of Crete and daughters of King Minos, Ariadne and Phaedra grew up hearing the terrible bellows from the Minotaur beneath the labyrinth. The Minotaur, Minos' greatest shame and Ariadne's brother, demands blood every year. When Theseus, prince of Athens, arrives in Crete as a sacrifice to the beast, Ariadne falls for him. But helping Theseus defeat the monster means betraying her family, and Ariadne knows that in a world ruled by miracle gods, drawing their attention can cost you everything. Ariadne has heard too many tales of women being punished for the acts of men. She is determined to set her own fate, but will she find herself sacrificed for her lover's ambition? So then the next book in the series is Electra, and we get this sort of like very dark cover with, obviously we've got her in green, we've got obviously this big dagger, and again all of this kind of like makes sense once you get into it. We've got this like beautiful columns, and that is a motif that kind of keeps on to the back as well, and again they're foiled, and I just think they're gorgeous. And even though I said a little while ago that I don't really like books with characters on the front, I feel like because this kind of like reminds me a lot of like Greek art, it's kind of different. It's not like, you know, the pretty girl on the front, like when it's not early YA vibes, okay? It's like ancient Greek vibes, and that's kind of what I'm here for. This, I feel like, is kind of like the next step along that journey of, we've had like Circe, Ariadne, and Phaedra, who have like been dealing with like the way that men perceive them, and like they've had to deal with the consequences of other people's actions. And you get kind of Circe, who's like, no, actually I'm gonna make a difference, and you've got Ariadne and Phaedra who are like, I really want to make a difference, but in a way they kind of don't quite get that far. So you've kind of got the next step in this sort of evolution. You've got Electra. So this also follows Clytemnestra and Cassandra. So this is all about the Battle of Troy. This is all about everything that goes on with that. And Clytemnestra is Clytemnestra is one heck of a character. She's a very strong woman, and she is like vibes all around. She's not like a good person. A little bit of a spoiler there, but honestly, like when you're reading this, because of the perspectives and because of the way it's written, you kind of sit there and you go, okay, but like I feel like you're justified in what you do. And I'm really here for it, and I love the way that we kind of end up with this little bit of an idea of, it's like, where previously it's been that the women have to deal with the consequences of men's actions, these women specifically are like, no, actually you can deal with the own consequences of your own actions. And I love the way that we get this kind of like change. And this was a 5-star read for me as well. I really loved this. This was a 5-star read for the rest of book club as well. We just were like living, breathing, dying for this, truly. The House of Atreus is cursed, a bloodline tainted by a generational cycle of violence and vengeance. This is the story of 3 women, their fates inextricably tied to this curse and the fickle nature of men and gods. Clytemnestra, the sister of Helen, wife of Agamemnon, her hopes of averting the curse are dashed when her sister is taken to Troy by the feckless Paris. Her husband raises a great army against them and determines to win whatever the cost. Cassandra, princess of Troy and cursed by Apollo to see the future but never to be believed when she speaks of it. She is powerless in her knowledge that the city will fall. Electra, the youngest daughter of Clytemnestra and Agamemnon, Electra is horrified by the bloodletting of her kin, but can she escape the curse, or is her own destiny also bound by violence? And then last, from Jennifer Saint, we have Atalanta. Now, like I said, I haven't read this one yet, but we've got this beautiful, like, bright orange cover. We've got the dark spine to match Electra. I obviously don't have Ariadne in the hardback, but I believe the spines do match. But we have this amazingly beautiful cover. We've got this gorgeous motif of her as a huntress with this stag over here, and the little boat, because she does follow Jason and the Argonauts. She is basically the only woman on the boat. And in all honesty, this is one story that I just like really don't know a lot about. This wasn't one that I've sort of like read previously, so I'm really excited to go into this like mostly blind. But I feel like the way that we've had this kind of like evolution of stuff, I'm really excited to see what happens in this, if she ends up as one of these women that has to deal with other people's actions, or she's like, no, actually you deal with it yourself, like that's not my job to take the consequences of your actions for you. I get the impression that she's like a very strong character, and I'm really excited for this, but honestly, the way that these 3 covers kind of go together just like really seals the deal for me, because we've got so much gorgeous foiling, and it's very like Greek art vibes, and oh, I love it. When a daughter is born to the king of Arcadia, she brings only disappointment. Abandonment on a mountainside, the defenseless infant Atalanta is left to mercy of a passing mother bear and raised alongside the cubs under the protective eye of the goddess Artemis. Swearing that she will prove her worth alongside the famed heroes of Greece, Atalanta leaves her forest to join Jason's band of Argonauts, but can she carve out her own place in the legends in a world made for men? And then last on this list is like where Greek mythology stems from, really. We've got these 4 gorgeous cloth-bound classics. Now these are literally some of like my favorite books. So we've got the Odyssey and the Iliad by Homer, and I love these, even though there's like no foiling. Just this motif just is so beautiful, and it really like feeds into the story, and it's just like so gorgeously done. There's literally no text other than what is like vitally important, which is the name of the book and who wrote it on the front cover and the spines. There is literally like nothing on the back. I live, breathe, and die for it. Now, these don't really have like a blurb as such, because like these 2 are like epic poems, and like I don't know. I don't think I've ever actually like read a blurb for these books, but like basically what we've got is we've got the entirety of the Battle of Troy, and then we've got Odysseus coming home for 10 years, getting lost, going on all these like random side quests while his wife is at home like suffering whilst everyone is like trying to marry her. But I've sort of read bits and pieces of these when I was studying in school, so I've read like certain chapters, but I really want to go back and like read them in their entirety. But again, I feel like a bit like with Madeline Miller, it's going to be a pick it up for a couple of chapters, put it back down, because obviously where it is translated from a literal poem, like it was literal epic poetry that this has come from, like it is going to be very prosy. I kind of know that it is a bit prosy. I mean, if we just find where we start here. So literally chapter 1 of the Odyssey is, "Tell me, Muse, the stories of that resourceful man who was driven to wander far and wide after he'd sacked the holy citadel of Troy. He saw the cities of many people and he learnt their ways. He suffered great anguish on the high seas in his struggles to preserve his life and bring his comrades home. But he failed to save those comrades despite all his efforts. It was their own transgressions that brought them to their doom, for in their folly they devoured the oxen of Hyperion, the sun god, and he saw to it that they would never return. Tell us this story, goddess, daughter of Zeus, beginning at whatever point you will." Like, it's very prosy. Both of these are very prosy. So I'm really excited, but I know they're going to be like a long-term read. They're not going to be a 5-minute. So then we've got the Aeneid by Virgil. Now this was basically ancient Rome's answer to the Odyssey and the Iliad by Homer. So basically the sort of TLDR of this is kind of the wrong way round, because we follow this character Aeneas, and it starts with him leaving the Battle of Troy, and he goes on this journey a bit like Odysseus does in the Odyssey. So we start with the kind of Odyssey half of it, and he goes on this journey, and eventually he comes to what we know as Italy today, and he then founds a city there, and then that's when we sort of get, in a way, kind of the Iliad half of it, because he has to fight for the city, and like, you know, he's got to like kind of like build it up, and like basically that is how ancient Rome sort of quote unquote started, and then his descendants were Romulus and Remus, and that is who founded Rome. So this was kind of the Romans' answer to Homer's epic poems. I don't know in terms of like, was this originally epic poetry and then got translated? Again, it is kind of sort of quite prosy. I feel like that's very much like the vibe, but it is this gorgeous like mustard yellow with these people with their spears and their shields. And again, we just get like the most important bits of text, and I really love that. And it feels really nice in your hand, and it's a lot smaller. Like, it's a lot smaller than the Iliad and the Odyssey, but like I feel like they packed a lot into this. Again, I've only read certain chapters of it, and I do really want to go back and read it, but they packed a lot into this. But I love the way that this looks on a shelf. Like, it's so beautiful in this like really bright mustard. And then lastly, we have the chunkiest book on this list. This is Metamorphoses by Ovid. Now this, I believe, is the Roman, basically this is like the Romans kind of like initial start of like creation and bits and pieces. I haven't ever actually read this. I've read like a couple of pages of this. I've literally read, wow, like 10 pages of this thus far. But again, this is obviously, it is very prosy as well. All of these cloth-bound classics are quite prosy. I mean, if you have a look at this page, Like, it is prose. It's literal, like, this is just what it is. Like, but I quite enjoy it, because I don't know, it just really sits well with me, this kind of thing. I don't really like poetry as such, but like epic poetry, stuff like this, I really, really love. So I'm, like I said, I'm only obviously 10 pages in, and this is kind of like going through very much kind of the start. So we've got like the creation story that we're going through at the moment. So it's how obviously everything kind of came to be. I'm really excited to kind of know more about this, but I just love the way that it's like this like steely grey with these like orange clouds. Like I said, it is a chunky book. Like, it is huge. I don't even know how many, 723 in the glossary, which, wow, is huge. That is a huge glossary. It's about 600 odd pages, right? 600 and, oh goodness, no, that's notes, oh my god. Anyway, it's 600 odd pages. It is huge. The text is relatively small. It's very, very prosy. Again, I've never read it. I really, really want to read it. I love like all like ancient Greek specifically, but I'm sort of like warming up to a lot of ancient Roman stuff. But yeah, this is just, I love these cloth-bound classics. I think they look so beautiful. I think because they're simple, they look really great on a shelf. There's no like huge detail down the spine and this, that, and the other, like a lot of books do. And I really love the fact that they're simple, they're clean, they're sophisticated, and I love them on my shelf. Okay guys, so that was everything. I feel like it was like basically just like a tour of my Greek mythology shelf with like literally just the Lost Apothecary thrown in there. But I really love these book covers. If you have any book covers that you think are the most gorgeous, please do let me know down in the comments below. Comment what books I need on my shelf that look absolutely amazing, that are not special editions. Because I think books should be pretty regardless, and we shouldn't have to buy special editions just to get the pretty versions. But that is a soapbox I will stand on another day, maybe. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!